But Bill Barr, the Attorney General, didn't want to be impeached. They were vicious with him. They said, we're going to impeach him. They didn't even know why, but they were going to impeach Bill Barr. He didn't want to be impeached. How do you not get impeached? You just sit back and relax and wait out for your term to end. And that's what he did. And it was a sad thing and a sad day for our country. Then he writes a crummy book.
How do you not get impeached? Of course, I mean, it's such a routine thing for government officials to just constantly be impeached. How do you not just get impeached? Donald Trump wants you to know. Well, the stakes there are that he is talking about Bill Barr, and he's talking about what he wanted the former Attorney General to do to stop the results of the 2020 election from being put into effect. Donald Trump did not want to be booted from the White House, and he wanted the AG to find some way within the law, outside of the law, to stop that from happening, to effectively end democracy. And if that resulted in him being impeached, that was a sacrifice Donald Trump was perfectly willing to make. He goes into more depth on what he wanted Barr to do in this video. Which was so false. But you know what? Had Bill Barr had the courage, a lot of this could have been taken care of.
Well, I'll say this.
The U.S. attorney in Philadelphia said Bill Barr told him not to investigate the fraud in the elections. And he said, don't do it. And he wrote a letter to that effect. And, it's had Bill Barr had the courage to do what he should have done, instead of being worried about being impeached. I said, look, get impeached. I went up a lot in the polls when I got impeached. You have to get impeached, maybe. But he was so afraid of being impeached that he refused to do his job. And that includes on some of the things you're talking about.
Now, just to be clear, the only consideration, the only stakes on you potentially being impeached is what effect it has on your ratings. Obviously, Bill Barr needs better ratings. He should just get impeached. But look, there's some shorthand there that's probably already obvious to you. If he'd had the courage, is what Trump says when he wants someone to break the law, to go against the Constitution to help him. If only Bill Barr had had the courage to invent voter fraud. That's not about courage, that's about a complete lack of ethics, which generally Bill Barr had demonstrated up until that point. He just wasn't willing to overturn the results of an election. They call that a lack of courage. If Mike Pence had the courage to stop the certification, there was no place within the Constitution, the way our government works, for him to do that. It has nothing to do with courage, it has to do with the law, with the Constitution that's at the core of our country. But that's the way that Trump is always going to talk about it, Nalini. If only someone had the courage to overrule the results of the actual vote.
I mean, Donald Trump is kind of a classic reality television villain, right? And he displayed it as president. He wants loyalty above anything. He wants people to break the law above anything. He doesn't actually care about, and never has, about the Constitution of the United States. He's cared about himself, what is going to work for him and his cronies. And that is what he's cared about and centered this entire time. What I think is really, really interesting is that we hear over and over again that he was willing to break the law and he wanted other people to break the law, yet he has not been penalized for any of it. Yeah. He actually wasn't really, he wasn't officially impeached so that he couldn't run again, right? He was impeached in the constitutional congressional way, but he wasn't actually removed from office so that he couldn't run again. There hasn't been a case against him just yet. There is definitely folks in his ranks that are being, called in for comment, but he hasn't been called in yet, and it's about time.
Yeah, thus far, no consequences, some ongoing investigations that maybe.
I mean, he's got records at Mar-a-Lago right now. Doesn't he have like a whole box of records at Mar-a-Lago right now?
They might have been recovered, but yeah, this guy is desperately trying to get you to lock him up and they still won't do it. How many ways can he declare? By the way, this was an interview with Sean Hannity. He didn't have to do the interview. He didn't have to reveal this. He just decided to add a little bit of fuel to the fire. Oh yeah, no, I tried to get my AG. I pressured him to overturn this thing. A weird choice.
Well, unfortunately, his base loves it though. That's the thing, is that his base wants people to have that outsider, right? Kind of like antagonistic to the system, even though the system has perfectly worked well for most of his base. So I think it's really important that unfortunately his base wants him to do this, which is why he continues to do so.
Yeah. And by the way, he's going against the system, with the system being the guy he chose to be the AG. So often he's the big man who's going up against his appointees, the people he chose, time after time after time. Now, in this case, thankfully, Bill Barr wasn't willing to go this far. A bad guy, by the way. He was chosen because he auditioned on Fox News and reassured Donald Trump that he'd give him mostly whatever he wanted. Remember, in advance of the Mueller report, he put out his pre-report lying about the content of it to shift the narrative before the actual details had come out. This was a bad guy, a Trump loyalist. The only thing he wouldn't do was overturn the results of the election, something he had no power to actually do. But yeah, back in December 2020, just a month after the election, he did an interview revealing that they had found no evidence of widespread fraud, which seems significant, but I'm not a Trump cultist, so I don't know. Anyway, he said he wasn't going to investigate the claims and he eventually resigned. He was pushed out effectively. And it wasn't until quite a bit later when his crummy book, according to Trump, came out, where he rejected the fraud claims. He blamed Trump for the January 6th riot. He said that Trump wasn't fit for office. And by the way, remember that, because in a minute it's going to be relevant. Not fit for office. He wrote that Trump surrounded himself with sycophants, whack jobs from outside the government who fed him a steady diet of comforting but unsupported conspiracy theories. He said that the absurd lengths Trump took to try to get back into office led to the rioting. But by the way, he did say that if Trump is the Republican nominee in 2024, he's going to vote for him, despite not being fit for office. Like, if you're voting for them, that is kind of an admission that you think they're fit for office. I don't know. Maybe there's a multiple personality thing going on. Maybe we got a Moon Knight situation. I don't know, Nalini. What do you think?
That is incredible. That is incredible for him to say, he did all these things wrong. He led to an insurrection that almost overthrew the government of the United States. But yeah, he's my homie, so I'll still vote for him in 2024. I mean, this is the lack of coherence that the upper echelons of the Republican Party have at this moment, right? It's like, no, we still believe in the law, but you know what? This guy who continuously breaks the law or wants people to break the law is totally fine leading the free world again, right? And we see it time and time again. And so I just think that, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to make sure that more and more people see Trump and his cronies for who they are. They are people who actually do not believe in the Constitution, and they do not believe in what the promise of what America was supposed to be.
Exactly, and those cronies are, in many cases, the new up-and-coming class of them are far more willing to give Trump what he wants than someone like Bill Barr. Let me give you an example, actually. So Trump not only has been attacking Barr, so Barr is also, by the way, going to vote for him after he's been trashed by Trump in the media. Trump called his book crummy. Anyway, Trump also issued an anti-endorsement in the Pennsylvania gubernatorial race for candidate Bill McSwain, former US attorney in Philadelphia that Trump brought up in the Hannity interview. McSwain last year asked Trump to endorse him. And McSwain said, no, man, it was Barr that stopped me from looking into voter fraud. Well, despite that, Trump put out a statement saying, do not vote for Bill McSwain, a coward who let our country down. He knew what was happening and let it go. It was there for the taking, and he failed so badly. By the way, if you describe your attempt to overturn the results of an election as it was there for the taking, you're saying the quiet part out loud. But anyway, despite the fact that he's anti-endorsing McSwain, all of the candidates in that race on the Republican side are big lie people. They all believe that the election was fraudulent. The two leaders were actually part of his fake Trump elector scheme. So no matter who you get there, they would have overturned the results of this election. So that's fun, Nalini.
It is. I mean, first of all, I have to say that your Donald Trump impression is amazing. That was actually really good reading. But yeah, I mean, here's what we have. We have people who are willing to fall in line. I think a bunch of folks who I see it as high school sometimes, except they're playing with our lives, where you have a bunch of people who follow the bully. Because out of fear, but also follow the bully because they want to be popular so badly. Yeah. It's like they can't not be popular. So you have all these people who will just fall in line no matter what he says about them. Look at all of the things that Trump has said about Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz spread the lies about the election as well. So we're just 100%. Seeing a really popular bully be that bully, but unfortunately a leader in this country.
Exactly. I'm going to leave you with one more fun note. If we could jump ahead to this screenshot from the interview, heads up to director. One of the lower thirds caught Assan's eye on Twitter. Lower third says Donald Trump on Biden families, foreign dealings. And I agree. We should be worried about the foreign dealings of family members of the president, especially if it's big dollars. Like, I don't know, maybe the fact that we found out this week that Saudi Arabia looked into Jared Kushner's request for $2 billion, said it's a joke, it's a terrible bet, but they gave him the $2 billion anyway. Maybe that's worth bringing up, Hannity. What do I know? I'm not on TV.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.